In 1930s Australia, science was dominated by men. Few women studied science, fewer still managed to make a career out of science. But Elizabeth Carrington Pope defied the odds.
Hello, my name is Julia Horne. I'm University Historian at the University of Sydney, and I'm delighted to introduce this latest University of History podcast series, Speaking of History, hosted by historian and archivist Dr Gabrielle Kemmis. You just heard Gab talk about 1930 Sydney-based marine zoologist Elizabeth Pope, who features in one of the podcast episodes. A while back now, I asked Gab to take a look at the university's amazing oral history collection with an eye to choosing 6 people to profile in 6 short episodes. The beauty is that each episode not only has Gab's historical wisdom, but also contains excerpts of the original interviews, so you get to hear people from the past speak about their lives in their own words. It's fabulous. Now, the oral history collection from which these interviews are drawn was started by a bunch of historians in the 1970s. They were researching the history of the university, so to add a bit of fizz and sparkle, they interviewed over 300 people who worked or studied at the university across the 20th century, some even from the early 1900s, more than 120 years ago. The 6 people featured in the series were all students studying at different times from the 1910s to the 1930s. They studied economics, law, arts, engineering, dentistry, and as we've heard, Elizabeth Pope studied science. Some talk about student life, others about life after studying, including the highs and lows of what often were really interesting careers. Amongst them is Sir Garfield Barwick, a legal legend who became Chief Justice of the High Court of Australia. Also Dulcie Barr, one of just a handful of women students in dentistry in 1919. There's Victor Burgmann, a pioneer of radar during the 1940s. Nancy Osborne, who worked as a wren in World War II. And Hermann Black, who talks about ways to avoid censorship as an ABC radio presenter during the war. You'll get to hear them talk about their halcyon student days, or perhaps not always halcyon, and how they made their way in the world. I really hope you enjoy the series, but I want to give the last word to Elizabeth Pope herself.
And I can remember having to spend about a third of the first week proving to the staff that a university graduate could talk normal language, yes, take an interest in normal things. And I do think there that my interest in sport helped.
Yes.
Because they saw me at times going off to play cricket, or I used to play at a cricket school, go and practice at Griffey's cricket school under the glaciarium and have a bat on Thursday night, and they'd see me going off to this, and this made me more human in the eyes of the museum staff.
The Speaking of History podcast series is part of the History of University Life program. You can find out about our events by heading over to History of University Life on Twitter handle @HULseminar. The podcast is researched and written by Gabrielle Kemmis and supported by the School of Humanities and the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences at the University of Sydney, with technical production by Peter Adams. This podcast was recorded on Gadigal country, and we pay our respects to elders past and present.